It's Food Safety Week this week, and the theme for Food Safety Week this year is excellent eggs. Handle them safely. And there's a reason for that. Some statistics you may or may not be aware of, a little bit alarming, but let me tell you, Australia has the highest incidence of foodborne illness in the world. That's us. 4.1 million cases every single year. 32,000 of those cases require the person suffering to actually be hospitalised. 86 of them every year result in death. And 45% of those deaths from salmonella infections occur among senior citizens. The Department of Health AusFoodNet estimates that 20% of foodborne illness in this country is linked to the use of raw or low-cooked egg products. And the Food Safety Information Council has released Omnipol research that shows that 43% of Australians are taking a big risk. They're obviously not aware of that. They're taking a big risk by not always washing their hands after handling raw eggs. That's compared with a lot fewer respondents, 23%, who said that they didn't always wash their hands after handling raw meat or poultry. And yet the repercussions can be just the same, if not more serious. Toowoomba-based business Australian Pasteurised Eggs is the gold sponsor of Food Safety Week. What they want to do is get the message out of how you can protect yourself from the potential food safety risks tied in with regular eggs and households who keep hens at home for homegrown eggs. Alicia Atkinson is the CEO of Australian Pasteurised Eggs. She joins me now. Alicia Atkinson, good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, David. How are you?
Very, very well. Thank you so much for your time. Do you think that people would be surprised? I mean, I guess those figures bear that up, that people would be surprised at how careful they need to be and what the potential risk is for, generally the eggs that you can get in Australia at the moment.
Yes, I believe that they would be surprised, and I think that the humble egg is generally seen as a creation of Mother Nature, and we trust in those things. So yes, I think the statistic, as you've alerted to, puts some alarm out there in terms of how careful you need to be when handling our excellent eggs.
I think that most people, I suppose, would see eggs as sort of being, and you alluded to it there, this sort of self-contained product that, that shell protects what's inside from any of the nasties, that are in the atmosphere, or any of the nasties that the egg can come into contact with. And it's obviously false. Is it just eggs that are laid in backyard, chicken pens that we need to worry about, or does it go beyond that?
Obviously, David, with the outbreaks that were in the media from September last year through until May this year, the problem went further than the backyard hen-laid eggs. So we saw some significant impact to the egg industry with Salmonella enteritis breakout in Victoria and New South Wales. I believe it was in the larger laying flock for Australia, but so it's just not the backyard eggs that you need to be wary of. But having said that, eggs generally, if handled safely, can be consumed safely.
Firstly, just some of the advice you're giving to people to minimise that risk. And this is interesting because I do this all the time. You're saying don't use the eggshells to separate egg yolks and egg whites. I always do that thing of passing the yolk from one half to the other until the egg white comes out, never realising that that was a definite no-no. Tell me some of the others, or a little bit more about that.
So generally the advice is not to buy cracked or dirty eggs. Obviously, most people, when they're purchasing from supermarkets, would generally inspect the carton prior to putting it in their trolley. So, if you see eggs that are dirty, cracked, or have chicken poo or anything like that on them, obviously don't buy them and notify the retailer. And more importantly, refrigeration of eggs and storing them in the fridge right away. They keep better in their original cardboard box. If you keep them in the original box, you're always able to refer back to their best before date. So you make sure that you're consuming them within that time frame. And it's always really important to remember exactly where the egg comes from in a hen. So washing your hands after handling eggs is extremely important to make sure that you remove any bacterial contamination that may be on your hands from the exterior of the shell, so you don't transfer that to other food that you're preparing at the time. And as you say, if you're cracking eggs and you drop egg shells, for example, into a mix, it's pretty important to either make sure that that mix is cooked thoroughly, and to ensure that that eggshell contamination is removed with clean spoon or fork as soon as possible to avoid further contamination.
It's good advice. Tell me, just in terms of the pasteurised eggs, so the process that what your company does pretty much eliminate any of this risk. Tell me just quickly about the pasteurised process and what that actually does.
So the pasteurisation process involves us taking your regular egg, and it's the Louis Pasteur, it's time and temperature. We pass it through a warm water bath for a specified temperature. During that process, the cuticle of the egg is actually removed, and as we process it through the pasteurisation process, we replace the outer cuticle with a food-grade wax coating, and then that's packed off and sent out to food service businesses at present. It sounds simple but complicated in terms of the technology, and that technology is accredited and validated to achieve the World Health Organisation 5-log reduction, which is 99.999% of harmful pathogens and bacteria from both the exterior of the eggshell and through to the yolk.
Okay, so as you say, simple process. The equipment's not cheap, but the process is relatively simple, but it pretty much does, for all intents and purposes, eliminate this risk, which is quite extraordinary. I guess if people want to find out more information, their best bet at this stage would be to go to the Food Safety Information Council website or the Department of Health AusFoodNet websites.
Yes, Food Safety Information Council has information that links to the pasteurisation process, but the intent of producing these pasteurised eggs is to allow the vulnerable population, anyone that's immunocompromised, pregnant women, young children, etc., that generally are advised to avoid eating regular eggs due to the risk. It opens up the opportunity for them to enjoy their eggs any way they like. So not just restricted to a hard-boiled egg where they can have their poached eggs sunny side up or runny eggs in the morning without being concerned that they may be placing themselves at risk.
Alicia Atkinson, I will leave it there. News is upon us. I appreciate your time this morning. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David.